Let's be honest. If success requires you to escape your life every month just to survive, is it really success? Today, we have Rochelle Tice, and she is unpacking the toxic hustle culture that's silently burning out mental health professionals and what we can actually do about it. So let's welcome our special guest, Miss Hillary Rochelle. I'm sorry, Miss Tice.
Hi.
See, once you program your mind one way, you got to reprogram it.
Right.
All right,
Understand.
ma'am. Introduce yourself to the audience so they can know who they're talking to today.
So, hi, y'all. I'm Rochelle Tice. I am a licensed clinical social worker and consultant. I specialize in supporting high functioning professionals, pretty much like people that are so used to, like holding it together for everyone else while they're quietly struggling within their own stress, their burnout, that mental exhaustion that I'm sure right now we're probably all feeling. And then I also run a telehealth based private practice where I do consulting work with athletes as well. And I work with those individuals as well as just, our everyday people navigating substance abuse, anxiety, and like the pressure to constantly keep performing at such a high level.
Welcome to Girl Talk Mental Health.
Thank you for
Are you
having
ready to
me.
dive into this impactful conversation?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let us know, us therapists. This is therapist focus this month. So why are so many therapists or mental health professionals, high functioning professionals, feeling exhausted even when they're doing work that they love?
Honestly, I think it's like actually because the passion, it doesn't cancel out kind of the pressures we have of this job, right? And I think that many of us, therapists, case managers, all of us, we're working within these organizations and these systems that demand a lot of high emotional output, productivity, availability of our time, our energy, and other resources that we have. But again, I do think it is like a structural support and or the lack thereof, right? And then when you think about our work, it's so rooted in like our purpose, right? So it actually makes it harder for us to take that step back because we have that feeling of being needed and responsible. And unfortunately, right now with all these layoffs, feeling replaceable as well if we don't show up.
That part there, the replaceable part, especially what people, some of my clients are like, okay, well, I Googled and I went to AI and it told me this and that. And even when we at the end of our sessions, they like, okay, if I need you, I'll call you back. But I'll just use AI or Google at the moment. What you think about that that's going on, especially as therapists?
Oh, goodness gracious. I have so many clients. They're like, I put it in ChatGPT or I Google this. And I'm like, please stop using Dr. Google. I think it's an amazing resource to give us background, but please make sure you're taking the time to talk to a professional. We went to school a long time, we have the training, and AI hasn't fully caught up to like the people part of our job.
And then we have to go back. That what makes our job a little harder as well and burns us out because we have to like compete with what they researched on Google or Chat GPT, and then especially if they have a lapse in services and then they come back and they've been using Chat GPT or Google as their therapist, and then we have to work hard to try to clean all of that up.
Yes, I cannot tell you how many people come in and with symptoms, and I have to let them know too that it may give you a range, right? Like I remember one time I put in there I had a headache, and it gave me everything from stress to a brain aneurysm. So I can imagine on the mental health side how many different answers and diagnoses that it's giving as well.
And then they go in a state of panic and they want to call you at 2 3 in the morning talking about or texting you saying, hey, I'm about to do this or this is about to happen, can you rescue me? Child, is 2 3
Right.
in the morning.
Well, good thing is, one thing we'll probably look into later is I am very good with boundaries. So they are more than welcome to text that, but they know not to expect a reply until at least
Absolutely.
9 o'clock. Yes.
Look, the message, can you please call 911 if it's an emergency or if you
Right.
need this help right now?
Yes, absolutely. Or 988. We love 988 as well.
988, it's a must. So what
Yeah.
do you think are some of the psychological impacts on constantly being on for others, and how does that show up emotionally and physically over time?
I think when we feel like we have to be like on all the time, right? I think it puts our nervous system into this kind of prolonged state of activation, right? So emotionally, I think this can look like being irritable, having that compassion fatigue, a little bit of numbness, a little bit, especially when we have a client on there and we're just like, ah. I can't wait to get the lunch, or even resentment, right, toward this work that we love and we used to enjoy. I think on a physical note, it could be headaches. It could be your sleep is disrupted, you're having trouble concentrating, and absolutely over time, if you keep having this constant output going on, you're not going to have enough like recovery in your system, right? Which is going to lead to that burnout. And in some of those cases, I really think it can start to overlap into like anxiety or depression if you don't already have those feelings.
Mhm. And don't think because you're a therapist that you don't get anxiety and depression and all of those same symptoms and burn out like your clients do. Mhm.
Absolutely. And I think that sometimes it's like who helps the helper, right? And
Mhm.
so I always encourage every therapist, make sure you have a therapist as well. There's no shame in that.
Absolutely. You need help, breaks, to unplug, and all of those other great things that we feel like we don't have the opportunity to do because we feel obligated to just go, 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 go.
Yes, always, always, especially because this is just work. What about all of our home responsibilities as well?
hmm So, why doesn't vacations or time off actually fix burnout for many professionals?
Mm. I think it's because when you're burnt out, it's not just about feeling tired, right? I think at this point, we're actually depleted. And that's something we don't think about. So when you step away and we're going to Jamaica or the Bahamas and all these amazing places, when we return, a lot of things haven't changed, right? So we still have those expectations, we have the same caseload, we have those emotional demands that are still there when we come back, right? And I feel like it puts us right back into that overloaded state. So think about when nowadays, like I was teasing my daughter the other day because she don't know what a VHS is. But remember when you had to pause for different movies and things like that, or even now, if when you pause, you can always come back, right? And the show
Mhm.
takes on. Our life is the same way, especially professionally. So we paused and we were able to get that stress to relax a little bit because we're on the beach, we're having a good time, we're sleeping in, right? We're eating stuff we probably don't normally eat. But then we press play again, right? So if you don't actually put changes into practice, you're still going to have that workload. You're still going to have those internal pressures of every job. Even if you're a private practice, right? You probably have a certain number you got to hit to pay our bills. So think
Mhm.
of time off as a short-term relief, like a little bandage, but it's just not a long-term solution like we feel like it can be.
So, when the last time you had a vacation? What's your like pattern of taking breaks, or if you need to work on it? Like, what are yours?
So for me, my last proper vacation is around the holidays. I took the last 2 weeks of the year completely off because I'm also
Mm,
a doctoral student, so we didn't have class. I did nothing, and it was amazing within
okay.
there. But I try quarterly to take at least a long weekend where I completely unplug. So there's like no school, there's no work. I'm even kind of minimal, like call mommy if you need something, but like ask your dad, right? If you need anything like that too. And then I also try my best, like at least twice a year, to take like a full week off or more if I can within there too. And I feel like that really, really helps. Like I think before the show, I was telling you on Fridays, starting in May, I'm going to be taking off. So putting myself on
Mm,
the 4 day weeks and being very purposeful on those 3 days off to not be doing work, not to be doing school, enjoying life. I feel like those are so important for me. And that's something I didn't do before. I used to just work and work and work. But now it's my body's so used to the breaks that I feel it if I try to skip one.
And it's important that you also not feel guilty about it too, because it's easy to feel guilty. And like I was saying, sometimes if they texting you or calling you 2, 3 in the morning,
Yes.
sometimes you feel obligated, like you have to answer. I personally
Mhm.
don't answer. I might check it
Right.
because I'm like, what if it's a real emergency, like a kid or
Right.
somebody, or well, I got two separate numbers, but you just when it's that time, it's just a high alert that makes you a little nervous. So, but yeah.
Absolutely. Especially if you have like higher risk clients. Like I know some of my clients are, they might have like suicidal thoughts, actively self-harming and things like that. But I have also made sure that they have resources. So like when I'm out, I start to back it up like a month before, like, hey, remember I'm going to be taking this time off. So what's our resources? I check in and physically make sure they know these resources with it. You know, at my current job, I actually had a problem with taking off, and my prior manager, I remember like experiencing this like frustration. I'm like venting and venting and venting. And she literally told me for the first time ever in my whole career, Rochelle, the reason that you're working on the weekends is because of your lack of boundaries. We have people here that will make sure and monitor your caseload from when you can't be here. They're here on the nights, they're here on the weekends. So she actually had me go on my phone and delete the app. I have never been told that before, that it's okay to not work. And it took me about a month or two to get used to not instinctually checking my phone, but I'm so grateful for it. So now it's like a standard practice. When I am done, right now it's on Fridays, I do not log back on. And it
Yeah,
feels
it
amazing.
is rare for a company to say take breaks
Yeah.
because a lot of the some of my clients, most of my clients are like referrals from their
Mm,
jobs, because they, some issue going on, they had some conflict or they, out of balance or whatever. And so a lot of it is because the company will send you for the therapy because they're
yeah.
trying to, mitigate some things, but they're actually the cause of it.
Exactly. You know, as that's one thing I'm actually looking at with my doctorate is burnout within like telehealth therapists. And I initially came in thinking that it was an individual problem because that's how we're made to feel, right? That it's your problem. You're not doing your
Hmm.
job, you're not this, you're not that. But the more I'm finding in the research, it's actually an organizational issue as well, maybe more so with it. Because again, like we just talked about, the demands, these caseloads. I remember seeing this one post and it said, this is a 9 to 5 position, but you're also salaried. So
Mm,
I'm like, so they're letting you know there are going to be times you are working outside of this 9 to 5,
right.
right? Expectation. And I always wondered who said because you're salary that you're on call almost, right? Within here. But that is the mindset that we are in today.
24/7. Like, and if
Right.
somebody calls in, you the automatic replacement.
Right. But it's like, where did that start? Because I know when I was hourly, they made sure I was out that door on time, right?
Okay, and they will. They will.
Right, they don't want to have to pay that overtime, but when all of a sudden you become salary and it's like, oh, it's 7 o'clock at night. Like I remember having a client in the past and she was telling me that they had a meeting at 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, are they in a different time zone? No, so like, what purpose would I need to talk to you at 10, 11 o'clock at night unless there's different time zones? So it was
Mhm.
shocking to me that it was an expectation because of the project they were on that she would just be available that late.
Yeah, I remember when I worked for the school district, they would have meetings when I was a counselor at the school district. They would have meetings after school, and that
Uh-huh.
would last to 6, 7, 8 at night. And then they would expect for you to come like 2 hours earlier to finish what was done that night. I'm like, why we didn't finish the night before? As long as we
Right.
stayed. But it's like they don't manage their time well, and they want you to compensate because they don't have good management of the meetings or whatever that's going on. So you have to suffer. But
Right.
maybe that's why I got uh, moved around to another school because I wasn't doing it.
Right. And
I
then how
just
much of
was
that
in
honestly
place.
could have been an email, honestly. How
Hmm.
much of it could have been an email?
Hmm. Well, Miss Tice, I think this would be a great place for us to have a quick commercial break. And while we on commercial, I want people to comment and to think about why do they feel, our therapists and mental health professionals specifically. So why do you feel like you need a vacation every single month? And think about the burnout and what you've been doing. Which you do need a vacation, but when you don't have one, why do you feel like you need one and why you're burnt out when you have had sufficient rest? So we'll be back in about a minute for the second half of Girl Talk Mental Health.
You weren't meant to break. You were set apart. What if your deepest pain was the birthplace of your greatest purpose? Meet Gingerbread, a child caught in the chaos of her mother's depression and suicide attempts. She never asked for trauma, shame, or to feel invisible, but she found something greater. Set Apart, the journey to find hope through loneliness, shame, and death is more than a book. It's the breakthrough you didn't know you needed. If you've ever said, "I'm fine," when you were falling apart, If you've ever thought, this story isn't for me, it is. Don't let fear, excuses, or busyness rob you of healing. This book will shatter the silence, stir your soul, and remind you, you were never forgotten. You were set apart. Set Apart. The Journey to Find Hope in Times of Shame, Loneliness, and Death by author Virginia Dale Manning. Available now, because hope can't wait.
All right, welcome back to the second half of Girl Talk Mental Health, the Therapist Takeover. And we have the pleasure of having had a real talk, impactful conversation with Rochelle Tice. So let's get to the part where the therapists have been waiting for. And give us some 2 to 3 practical ways that therapists can create sustainability in their work without feeling guilty or like they are abandoning their purpose.
Okay. So I think it's really helpful, and I know it myself, I had to learn this as well, is shifting our mindset from being needed to being effective, right? So knowing and understanding that we don't have to constantly be available to be impactful, right? So I know at my job, they have like the in messaging app with it. So not feeling like I have to answer every single one the second I get it, right? Being okay to say, okay, I'm going to set aside this time for this. And at 4 o'clock on a Friday, I'm logging off and feeling okay to do that, right? I think that's one of the first things. Another would be building in, absolutely, you have to build in that non-negotiable recovery time, right? So not just within having days off, because let's be real, a lot of times in our days off, we're running errands, we're running to Target, we're doing grocery shopping, everything but a day off. But it has to be very intentional with that time and making sure that in that week that we're having it so we don't feel that emotional draining. So like if you're a person, you like yoga, stick to that 5 p.m. yoga. Let that be your time away from everything and don't move on it. Don't slide a client in who missed it or you need to make up a session or anything like that, but be very, very selfish. And it's okay to do so with being selfish with that recovery time. Let's see. Another one, I would say practice values, but base it on your boundaries. Again, you have to remind ourselves that sustainability is a part of ethical care as well, right? So if you're burnt out, our capacity to show up is not going to be there. It's already compromised, right? Because now we're okay to miss a session or two. We're okay to call out last minute with it. So biggest thing I hope that y'all take away from this is sustainability isn't selfish, right? It's what actually allows us to show up for everybody as well as ourselves so that we can actually do this in the long term. Because I forgot exactly what the statistic is, but I know they said by like 2030, they're already anticipating there's going to be a shortage of mental health professionals due to the pandemic in 2020 with it, because we weren't practicing this. Our jobs weren't practicing this. It was just, everybody was just trying to make it through. But unfortunately, this is now what we're left with.
Okay, that's interesting information right there. So
Yeah.
what for someone who's watching and who feels stuck in survival mode, what's one truth they need to hear today to begin reclaiming their peace?
I would say you are not failing. Your system is overwhelmed, right? That's the biggest thing with it, because we put these high expectations on ourselves. A lot of times we're our worst like person when it comes to getting feedback and everything like that too. And that's not just our clients. Again, it is within ourselves as well. And another thing too is, you know, the life you want isn't going to come from pushing harder. I know we were all kind of raised on this hustle culture, like you work hard and you get rewarded. And that's true to a degree, right? But I think it also comes with, we got to give ourselves that permission, right? So permission to slow down, permission to be okay not to pick that phone up at 2 a.m., setting those limits. And again, boundaries, because you have to choose yourself without to earn that right to choose yourself.
Right, because like they say, self-care is not selfish. It's like taking care of yourself. And we have a problem with feeling selfish, like, oh, I can rescue somebody. So if I take care of myself first, do I really care? Am I a real healthcare professional? Do I have that empathetic, you know, demeanor that I need to have as a healthcare professional. But no, you have to take care of yourself first in order to be able to take care of other people, for sure.
Yes. And I think also another thing too is we need to redefine exactly what is productivity, right? Because again, our job has their own definition of that thing, but every single hour doesn't have to be so emotionally draining, right? For us to feel like it's valuable. So again, putting those breaks in, like if you know, like we know our caseload after a couple sessions. So if you know that on Tuesdays, those first three people are going to be very draining, be okay to take that 30 minutes to an hour, go get a coffee, step away from that laptop, step away from the office. And again, giving yourself permission to do so. That problems and everything that's going on there are going to be right there when you come back.
Because I know I'm guilty of that as well. Because I do some work for the state, and so I have caseworkers that want case notes like right after you finish seeing a client or whatever. When we really don't have to turn them in until the beginning of the month. I mean, that's in the contract. But they
Oh,
always hit me up asking for, case notes like way before they're due. And I have like a pattern of when I just sit down and I do them all at one time, right?
right,
That's my schedule to help me, manage myself. But
right,
it just amazes me. Like, I know they tell you the same guidelines that they tell me. So why are you
right.
asking?
But I think sometime when we don't have those boundaries, people become a little bit, they get so used to it, right? That it's
Mhm.
now not the norm. But again, it's about those expectations. Like, okay, expect to get them at the top of the month. If I can get it to you
Mhm.
earlier, absolutely. But it's not a requirement, and being okay
Mhm.
to recognize that, because again, we all want to be good workers, right? We want to be recognized by our peers and like, oh, okay, I know Virginia's always on top of her stuff. Well, maybe Virginia is tired this week.
Exactly, exactly. Which is why I bring up that point. Because, and then they may have some other therapists who do jump every time they say jump, and so they expect for you to do the same thing too. And then they look at you sideways because you're not willing to jump hoops and loops when they want you to. And it's just it's a whole mess.
That's
So
what I'm saying. Yeah. And that's why I say it's also an organizational issue because they use what they think is healthy competition, right? And they're do the recognition. But then when you look at it, you're like, so and so, like, say they recognize Paul. No offense to any Paul's listening. And they're like, Paul's going above and beyond. But then you realize that Paul's there at 6:30 in the morning. He's not leaving at 6:30 at night. He's not taking lunches. He's ordering in. He's doing working lunches. And somehow Paul is still surviving. But then you give Paul a couple months. Is he still looking excited? Does he still look like he loves his job? Or did Paul go somewhere else?
yeah,
Right?
Paul is ready to resign in a minute.
Exactly. And then unfortunately, what we're seeing too is Paul's the one who's not going to be promoted after all that sacrifice, right? We're not seeing that reward for the output we're putting. So imagine that you're putting in 60, 70-hour weeks and they promote the person who you don't even see them. You're like, do they even work 40 hours? Do they
That
still
part.
work? Mm-hmm. Oh
I
yeah.
tell people that all the time. Somebody is on that FMLA and you wondering where they been at, and they've been taking their mental health break, and they come back refreshed,
Hmm.
feeling good on top of the job, and they get your promotion, and you've been working from sun up to sundown.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I've seen it, I've experienced it as well. And that's why I'm like, I tell my clients all the time, take your PTO.
Mm-hmm.
Sit here and waste it. I can't remember the number, but I remember my jaw dropping when someone told me that they lost, it was the equivalent of a week and a half worth of PTO because they had
Mm-hmm.
just been working so much. And I remember asking them, I said, given where the state of your job is right now, was it even worth it?
Right.
Any of it worth it? Because you don't get overtime, your salary. I was like, and then you're watching the promotion, like you said, walk away with somebody else, and you're the one you gave up a whole week. You could have been doing anything else, right? With that time.
Absolutely. Well, Miss Rochelle, we sure appreciate your expertise and your tips and tools, therapist.
Yes.
I guess that's mean the therapist got some therapy today, right?
Just a little bit, just a little
Just a
bit.
little bit. So get them a final tip or tool or whatever talk takeaway you want before we close out today.
Take your PTO. That's the first one. Two, again, be okay to put those boundaries because I think that's the hardest thing is sometimes it's boundaries with a client, sometimes it's boundaries within ourselves within there. Even if it's too hard for you to maybe put a full-fledged boundary, start with a micro one. So maybe putting, again, that buffer time between clients, right? And making sure that you are being super, super selfish and protecting those no client days with it. Just because that client missed, of course, we want to get them in, but don't stop your plans on Friday or Saturday or Sunday just to slide them in, because that's still a work day, right? So just make sure we're respecting those boundaries, and please take y'all PTO.
Okay, so let the audience know where they can connect with you at, or if you have something special going on you want to share, or anything you want to do or talk about.
So right now, school is the priority because I'm working on my doctorate at University of Kentucky. I'm gonna graduate next year, y'all. Hopefully, I'll be walking that stage. So I'm about to say my social media presence has backed off a little bit because that is the priority because I'm trying to get done. But at my practice, for anyone in Colorado, I'm actually going to be starting supervision. So if anyone is LCSW, unfortunately I can't do counselors just yet, but anyone LCSW are pursuing it, definitely check us out. I'm at beautyandbrokennesscounseling.com.
All right.
And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to reach out because I think it's so important to have affordable supervision, because I am shocked sometimes when I'm seeing how much people are paying for it. And I was like, oh my gosh, you have to pay that for 3 years with it. So our goal is absolutely to make it affordable because, again, like I told you, we're having a shortage coming up if you haven't already seen it in some of these areas. So if we can get a few people through just to be able to help, we're willing to do that.
I love the name of your business, by the way.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, so if you are a therapist, a helper, or just a strong man or woman, you're not just working, you're carrying people. This conversation spoke to you. Don't just watch, subscribe, and transform. Because what's coming up next on Girl Talk Mental Health will help you rebuild your life without losing yourself. So see you next week. Thank you, Rochelle, for tuning in and giving us your information. And we'll see you next week for another powerful episode of the Therapist Takeover.
Thank you for joining us for Girl Talk Mental Health. Remember, your mental health is your wealth. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to at Virginia Del Manning.